didn't hear you call it. May I go on?
What is your name?
Mercedes Wild Goose.
Okay. Yes, you have signed up. I just haven't gotten to you yet. But go ahead.
Okay, well, my name is Mercedes Wild Goose. I am originally from this little island, this wonderful, beautiful place. I'm 84 years old. I am a sacred elder of Frederick Douglass High School. I taught in many schools. The situation was such that I went from one school to the other as I was told to do. But I started at Douglass, the first Douglass, right? As a student, the old Douglass. Then I went, where did I go? We went to churches. The Navy took over the things, took over their schools. Then we got Douglass again. And then segregation became desegregation. I was sent to other schools. Then finally back to Douglass School. But Douglass School is a part of me. And I taught a whole lot of people. I played music for churches, for weddings, for programs and all. I am a part of their lives. They are a part of mine. And I, as a sacred elder, these educators have helped me keep in touch with myself and my memories. That's all we have. The band room will help. And we're getting more people, all our students and their children from all over the world, helping now, trying to be a part of this. We cannot afford to have the band room taken away from us. I come here to ask you, please consider this. I'm one of the few left. My husband was a teacher too. He was a coach. And many of my cousins were teachers. They taught me. So please, I ask you, thank you so much.
For everyone to know this. This is not a matter of choosing one over the other, of choosing the band room for the Roosevelt Sands Clinic or choosing for the Ellen Sanchez Museum. It is a matter of rectifying a broken promise to the group that represented the indigenous people of the island, a promise not kept, and it also represents making sure that the Roosevelt Sands Health Clinic has a place to be housed in the community. Once again, we're asking that, your support, that this resolution not be passed tonight. We have worked diligently to make this, work out with the city staff. We're working diligently to do things in the community, and we want to let you know that we have engaged attorney Jenny Stones, who is willing to work with us as a mediator if this is postponed, so that we can get this situation corrected and made right. We're asking that you postpone this tonight and allow us time to go ahead and have a mediation with this. And I want you to remember from Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not.
Next.
I'd also like to say that if anyone else would like to, if there's any questions that need to be asked, please feel free to call me back.
Okay. All right, thank you.
To all of you on this platform tonight, commissioners and all, my name is Phyllis Allen. I reside at 806 Elizabeth Street, Rear. And it's a difficult task for me to be here tonight. And I'm going to share first with you why it's difficult. I was a graduate of Douglass High School. When I returned home from college, I was a teacher at Douglass High School. Clayton Lopez was in my first class, and I'll have to tell you that at the age of 10, he was already smarter than the teacher.
Teacher's pet, right?
True. Also, I want to share that, Douglass went through a closing in 1965 when the school district became an integrated school system. And so I and all the teachers went off to all of the other schools, but that facility remained open first as a community college, then as a middle school, then finally as an elementary school. And I, in 1974, was assigned the final principal of Douglass School. I went into that position knowing I was going to have to close Douglas School because Gerald Adams was already being built and we were going to close Douglas School. So I had that on my heart and my mind for the 2 years that I was there. So this is not an easy task for me. My life has revolved in many ways around Douglas School. But I do have a statement I want to make, having said that and given you some background. To take public property and use it to honor the past, which I'm a part of, and ignore the current needs of a community is to be irresponsible. And so tonight, I come before this commission asking if there cannot be a resolution between the two groups. I'm asking that this commission consider first the living. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask for no applause, please? Huell Knighton, and then Sloan Bashinsky.
Good evening. I didn't mention my address before. I'm sorry. 91421 Overseas Highway, number 3, Tavernier. But I do reside sometimes in Bahama Village. First, I just would take a moment and pause on Martin Luther King, who was assassinated 48 years ago, if you give me that. Thank you. This is very difficult for me because it divides me. I'm someone who's lived AIDS for 30 years now. I understand the importance of health, as Dr. Yates, our first city health officer of Florida, did. What the clinic does down there in the neighborhood is it serves mainly for pediatrics. And what we need to understand is if we move that clinic somewhere else, say if we move that over to Gato, where people like myself go and have a compromised immune system, that endangers people like myself. The clinic being where it is helping keep people like myself alive and safe. Also, it allows those that are in that neighborhood.
I'm a white guy, so I really don't have an action or a dog in this fight. I cannot believe that this cannot be resolved. You just voted $2 million of tourist development money for a tiny amphitheater on a very expensive park. I think a cultural center will attract tourism. I think the city ought to fund it and find a place for it that's appropriate in Bahama Village. I think that's a lot more important than a cheap, small amphitheater that's not going to pay for itself. It's not going to generate big money from rock concerts. I think you're talking about something that's a lot more important than money. Of course, health is important. You need both. You need culture and you need a health clinic. You don't need either or. That's crazy thinking. A community's arts are what, that's the soul. That's the spirit of a community. So you need to feed the soul and the body, the living and the dead. Thank you.
Wilhelmina Martin, and then John Smith.
Good evening, Mayor Cates, Commissioners. My name is Wilhelmina Lopez Martin. I reside at 1202 Whitehead Street. I have prayed for this resolution to pass tonight without all of the controversy it has sustained at the previous meetings. It saddens me that we are even here tonight discussing this issue again. Nothing in life is written in stone. You are not living if you do not have to deal with changes in your life. The day that ceiling came down in the gym was the saddest and hardest day of my life. It was the day that we buried our mother and the repast was being held there. Every time this come up, it hurts because my mother was a peaceful person And I relived that moment when we heard that crash of the ceiling falling, and I was like, Lord, please, no more. Not right now. I was so thankful that Clayton and the gym staff were not in the area at that time. It should not take a rocket scientist to figure out that the best place for the clinic is the band room. Moving the clinic from out of the area should not even be considered. I understand that with that space, they will be able to bring the Wic program back in full service. I had my daughter in 1998, and when I was pregnant with her, I didn't know that I would have to go on leave without pay. But I was put on complete bed rest, which took more leave than I had. I thank God for the Wic program because I was able to utilize it while I was on leave without pay. When the Monroe County Health Department was at the end of Fleming and Thomas Street, it was so easy for folks to walk there. And when it moved out to Stock Island, I can remember people complaining how hard it was for them to get out there. I have seen people in wheelchairs rolling themselves or being pushed to the Roosevelt Sands Clinic. Mayor, commissioners, I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I pray that you will pass this resolution as it is written tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, city citizens, Bahama Village, and thank you for everyone that's here to support us. I am here representing the Frederick Douglass Black Educators Memorial Project, and our goal is to preserve the rich and colorful history of the indigenous people of Bahama Village for the ancestors and for their descendants. What I would like to share with you is that the commission on January the 20th gave directives to the city staff to look for a building that both of these entities would be able to exist in. We considered that it would be a fair negotiations in doing this. That obviously did not happen. When the meeting began, it began about something else that was not the directives. So we were not prepared to speak at that meeting other than we were there to listen. In a memorandum that we've received recently, there in the purpose and justification, there is basically one paragraph. It is predominantly false. It is not right. At least, please give us the justice and the decency that we have a fair chance at this building. We are not against public health. We were offered at a meeting, the only meeting that we had with the city staff on January 28th. We were told by Mr. Velez that the city was offering us to share the building with the clinic. That we did not have a problem with. We did not have a problem with, although we said we would like to have the entire building because the cultural and social aspect of it is very important to the people of Bahama Village, that they may have somewhere to still maintain and be community. This is what we're asking tonight, that you will postpone the motion on this and give us a fair chance to be represented. And if there's any questions about what happened at this meeting, it's recorded. So I think that it speaks for itself, and I ask you to please give us justice. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Donald Carey and then Tom Malone.
My name is Donald Carey, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Douglas High School alumni and teachers. I think that, well, one of the things I want you to know is that the Douglas School, when it was abandoned, the gym and what have you, there was a group of us from the Bahamas Village area that went down there. We cleaned the gym out. We got permission from the then superintendent, Mr. Henriquez, to take care of it. We cleaned the gym, we polished the gym, and we made it fit so that the kids in the neighborhoods could go there and play. We also cleaned the adjacent rooms that were left abandoned. So we have had a stake in the Douglas building. One of the things that happened, as you were told before, Douglas was a junior college after they closed it. It also was an elementary school. And I was the last PTA president at that particular school. One of the things that we lost Douglas to was that the federal government said that when it was an elementary school, that it still was a predominantly black school because you had more black students attending there than whites. So they said they were going to cut the funding unless they sent more whites back there at Douglas. One of the reasons why it was closed as an elementary school, because the only white students that were attending Douglas at the time were Navy dependents. We had the black students from the area and Navy dependents. None of the other whites from Key West were attending there. And Mr. Henriquez didn't want to send any there. So what happened, he bussed all of the black students out of the area and sent them to the one at behind the Monroe County Hospital. And the other thing was, Douglas was still, because it was those two schools, it was still one of the better schools in the area as far as physical utility or plant. But to make sure he wouldn't get in that situation again, they knocked everything down except the 3 brand new rooms in the gym. We are here before you tonight because those rooms that were left standing, we'd like to preserve and use to maintain our heritage. We have a rich heritage. We have people that are trained so that they can keep it up, and we want to continue to have those buildings. They only exist because we made sure they stayed in existence.
All right, thank you.
Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Veronica Stafford, 331 Avenue B, Key West, Florida. 15 years ago, on Petronia Street, there were 34 black people from the Caribbean, from Key West, from other parts of the United States doing business on Petronia Street. Today, there are 2 black businesses on Petronia Street. I want to ask you to go back 15 years before the last 15 years that I'm talking about. It was the corridor for black business in Key West. In fact, it was just after segregation and black people were doing business there. So you're talking 30 years. Today there are 2 black businesses. If we bring this now to the museum project and the black educators, there's no way that we could really identify in Bahama Village that really represents the people. This is a chance for us to remember Robert Butler playing the bass with the big smile and the tall body and the laughter, Harry Chipchase, the guys from the Junkanoo. We understand Commissioner Lopez's position. We're not saying that we don't want a clinic in Bahama Village, but the walls have it. You could put a clinic anywhere, but the walls in that building means something to the black people. I'm bringing up a little black boy who don't want to do nothing else but music. He want to play the guitar, and no matter how we convince him that it's going to be hard to make money, he wants to be a musician. And this band room is what represents the black people who went to that Douglas school. And Commissioner Lopez, he's doing things for where his bread is buttered. He works with the health department. He's making sure that they have their building. There's 6 more commissioners, and I am asking you all to give the people of Bahama Village justice. Give them a chance that they could be represented by the images that pass. There's nothing there now. Look at Petronia Street. There's no way you could buy comforters that was made by black people legally in Bahama Village now. You can't buy no black eyed peas. It don't exist. 15 years from now, check it. There's nothing that will represent black people in Bahama Village. Give us the one chance that we could show that black people lived there. Black people came out of there. Fats Navarro, Harry Chip Chase, Robert Butler, the Junkanoo.
Okay.
Give them a chance, please, the next 6 commissioners, please.
All right, thank you.
My name is Carla Tynes, and I reside at 5030 Fifth Avenue in Stock Island. But I have relatives. I've been raised in Bahama Village, in both the Roosevelt Sands Center. That's dear to my heart. Okay, that's my Roosevelt Sands is my uncle. I'm also a part of the Frederick Douglass Educators Committee. I'm here to be like in the middle here. Okay, I feel there's a need for both. We have to have a museum and to showcase the history of the Bahamian people, the Spanish people, all the other ones that came to make Key West the uniqueness that it is today. Okay, we're open to everybody, and that's how it's been from the beginning. But we have to have somewhere where we can store our history. Okay, and what I want to know, and I'm asking the commission, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with the plaza where the Douglas Gym is at now? Is there a way that the 2 entities can get together and one have the band room, one have what's now is the clinic? Do you guys are there any plans in the making as to what's going in there after it's been renovated?
Yeah, we'll answer that question when we're in discussion.
So I want you guys to think about that, okay? Because there is a need for both.
I agree.
And there is a way you can do it. And if you're thinking about money, I agree with what the white guy back there said. He said himself, there are other ways you can get funding, because some of the things that you guys are funding is not necessary in that community. Okay?
Next.
Donna Moore, and then Gwendolyn Magby.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Commissioners. My name is Donna Allen Moore, and I reside at 1020 Sugarloaf Boulevard, and I am far from home tonight. But I attended the last City Commissioners meeting, and it really weighed heavy on my heart to see that it's almost like the us against them mentality, because Clayton is a family friend. Deidre is a family friend. Members of the black educators are my family, my friends. Phyllis Allen is my cousin. So it's that us against me mentality when we're all family. We grew up together. Our families chastised, raised kids together. So I hope that can be taken off the table, the us against them mentality. Because both of the issues are very important. They're a very important part of Bahama Village. You say Bahama Village now, I say Crosstown. I was a graveyard disciple. So, when I say, if I say Crosstown, you understand what I mean. And like I said, both of them are a very important part of that community, because although I never attended Douglas School, but I took sewing with Miss Anna Richardson. And so I was I was so excited we would have a museum to say that we could showcase Miss Anna Richardson or Mr. Albert Key or the guy that used to ride around with the fish, Bing the Fish Man. I remember Cups Corner, Miss Louise Allen Robinson, who was a nurse, Miss Melouise Johnson, Clifford Johnson's The Funeral Home, Miss Rosalie, who was the nurse, Henry Green's place, although I was never able to attend one of the dances, and the New Lounge, and Coffee Butler, who's a cousin. So I'm like Carla, I'm in the middle. I can straddle both sides of the fence. But from what I've read, it seems that an issue, but Mayor Cates said that he'll explain that later when the relocation of the police athletic league. And if the Roosevelt Sands Clinic is relocated to the band room, I hope a reasonable resolution would be to keep the Ellen Sanchez Museum maybe next to the gym so that the families and people that visit the gym can come to the museum that's adjacent to it and learn of the rich history that Crosstown has to offer. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Gwendolyn Magby, and then Mike Mongo.
My name is Gwendolyn Magby. I'm the pastor at Trinity Presbyterian Church on Simonton Street between Petronia and Angela. Mr. Mayor, to the commissioners, as I sit here tonight, it really grieves my heart and it grieves my spirit that we cannot, as a community that I've grown to love over the last 13 years and 9 months, and all the people of this city that I've ministered to and all the prayers I've had here, it grieves my heart and it grieves my spirit that our mayor and our commissioners could not come up with a resolution that could accommodate both the clinic and the museum. If we can come up with funding that we've come up with tonight, I know that we can come up with a resolution wherein the clinic can be in Bahama Village with a substitute resolution going along with it where there will indeed be a location for the museum. The black history in these United States of America has almost been depleted in history, in writing. And what the people are wanting is good health care for those who are living with AIDS and for those of us who are diabetics and those of us with heart condition, in addition with maintaining our history. I petition to you, Mayor, commissioners, come up with a resolution that will accommodate both. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think my people say amen. My name is Mike Mongo, 1407 United Street. Thank you very much. I wasn't meaning to be involved in this topic. Commissioner Lopez and I had a conversation yesterday, and one thing led to another, and suddenly I spent the entire day on history, which it's a good use of time. And one of the things I picked up on was this thing that Commissioner Lopez says in the newspaper in the Citizen. It says, "I am a big supporter of anything that preserves or uncovers our history," and we are, and this is, and I heard people talk about this being a choice between this or that, and I do not believe that it is a choice. We need both. There's no question. Absolutely. The one thing about this particular piece of property that we're discussing tonight is that it's not replaceable. It is the last remaining rooms component of a school that opened in, I believe, in 1871, the Frederick Douglass School. Now, the interesting thing about the Frederick Douglass School, we keep on saying Frederick Douglass, but we forget who Frederick Douglass was. He was a free man. He didn't start that way. So what a great name for a school to name, because education frees us. All the people I spoke with today as I went through our community, and to a person, everybody was adamant, we have to preserve this history. This is not to say that we displace this one or displace the other. As Reverend Magme just said, we're all smart. We can figure this out. We can figure this out. But also, as Reverend Magme just said, this piece of history is a piece of a story that is being depleted. It's funny because people talk about black history, and I just think of history. That story's my story. The people that went to that school are my friends. If it was some other piece of history, we may pay closer attention to it and not let it slide through our fingers. And because of the location of that, right where our new park is, I think it's going to be an important go-to destination. In the same way that we have the statue in Bayview Park now honoring our African-American participants in the Civil War, that's an important part of that exact same story. All I ask tonight is that you consider postponing and moving this forward. Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. First, we got to start out with a motion. Mr. Mayor. Unless there's any questions.
I have questions, Mr. Mayor.
Question.
I have two main questions. One is the Douglas Gym is in bad disrepair. What is the progress being made on that? What's the time frame? That's the first question.
Greg, you might have to help, but I think they're looking at commencing work somewhere around July, August. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It's out to bid now. We have a pre-bid meeting next week. Bids open, I believe, early May, and by the time we go through the process, we would assume that they would start work somewhere around early July, and we're targeting a 9-month construction period.
Okay, and so on this subject, 9 months from July, you're talking about finishing when, in April of 2017?
I'd have to count it on my fingers, but
something like
something
that.
Around that, yeah.
And so, in the meantime, that space where the health department is currently, that would be unusable, or what's the status of that space during that 9-month period?
Well, I think there's two answers. I think in a perfect world, they would find a place to relocate. However, we are going to include as an ad alternate a way to put if you will, a barrier wall up and a way to be able to, they could maintain operations. Obviously, there'll be noise. We'll have to institute some dust control measures. We'll have to make sure that we have parking and access for them. So it's really, I haven't heard recently what the health department's plans are for the construction period, but we are going to at least be able to give them the option if they want to stay there.
And so it's possible for them to stay there?
We believe so, but that's from a construction standpoint, that's
right.
Our opinion. From a health standpoint, they may have another opinion.
And we've heard otherwise from them already. But so just so I can finish this part, the space at where the health department is now, is that being changed, modified, construction work?
What's going to be impacted is going to be their entry. What's currently now, and Commissioner Lopez can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but kind of the current entry and the current waiting area, as well as I believe your office, sir, as well, is going to be part of it.
But no, that's as far as the clinic itself. I don't have an office there, and I want to be clear about that because that's something else that's been going around. That's another lie that's been going around. That I'm trying to do this for the sake of an office of mine. I don't have an office in the clinic. Number one. But it will impact the waiting room, and it will impact it'll impact tremendously the function of the Wic program. They will virtually have to shut down. I don't care what kind of retaining wall we put up there. They will have to shut down. Secondly, if we put up a wall, then we end up creating a singular ingress-egress point. The state of Florida will not allow a health clinic to operate with a single ingress-egress point. It just will not. It just cannot be done. It's the same kind of things that say that we have to have our houses built now at a certain height. That it's guidelines that we have to follow. Bottom line.
Fair enough. All right. Okay, I had one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
Not for Jim. Thank you, though. Oh, thank you. For Sean. Is the city in compliance with 2-941 subsection C that requires requests for proposals on all city leases, new city leases? Since the band room would be a new city lease, we're not talking about a space of renewal. We're not talking about, we're talking about a new building, a new space, a new entity going in there, not renegotiating any lease. So why would section C of 2-941 not apply, which requires a request for proposal?
Commissioner, it's helpful if you ask me those questions so I can actually take a look at it. I appreciate you finding that section and bringing it up, but we have a current lease agreement with a particular tenant. I'd have to take a look at it in that light. I mean, it's great to ask me that at a commission meeting tonight after we met today. It would have been helpful for me to actually get a look at that and have that discussion. But what I can tell you right now is we have a current lease agreement with the health department.
Right, but for Frederick Douglass Gym.
Correct.
We don't have a current lease for the band room.
Well, this is asking to enter into negotiations. We're simply changing the location because we are displacing them.
Okay. Well, so are you saying that you're not sure?
I'm saying, Commissioner Klossman, I'm saying you're asking me that question now without the opportunity to look at it.
Okay.
Commissioner, I would like to clarify that that is our city attorney that represents us and advises us. I know you're an attorney. If you have different opinions and different ideas, it's not arguing back and forth.
I asked a question. I didn't make a statement.
We discuss that at the dais and we vote. It's not a court of law here.
No, I just asked a question.
Yes.
May I ask a question?
First, a question. Go ahead.
Is there any reason why we can't pass a resolution that provides that the health clinic will only move over to the band room until the gym work is completed? Thereafter, then it will move back. The health department will move back to the gym room or that where it was. And then the band room can go back to being a band room. Is there any reason we can't do that and just make the relocation temporary? Just so we get this, they can't be in there while it's being repaired because of the toxic air and all that. So they have to be out of there during that time. But at the time that it is completed and the wall is put back up and the things that are renovated, then the health department moved back in there, and then the band room is the band room again.
Is that an amendment?
No.
I would make the motion if it's possible to do this.
He's asking a question that should be answered.
To change the resolution.
Because city manager and assistant city manager answer that.
If I may.
Go ahead, Greg.
The band room, as it sits today, when it will be finished, will be a white box. There will be no accoutrements. There will be very little in there other than a sparse white box. It's going to take considerable cost to put that into the position to be a clinic, a museum, whatever the case may be. It's going to take a great deal. It's going to take an investment to get that to that point. Okay, so it's not like the clinic can just move over there and operate and then move back. If they move, they're going to have to come in and do a considerable amount of work in order for that place to become a clinic, and then they're not going to want to move back. Now, there was a question asked, what about the area that we're moving out of? Will that be conducive to maybe moving we can move anything into there at that point. But right now, you can't take anything and move it into the band room without a considerable amount of work in finishing the band room. So right now, all we're doing is making a structurally sound, clean, mold-free, and ready to go for whoever wants to go in there and re-outfit that building.
But they could re-outfit it temporary. just for temporary use. They don't have to have it permanent. I mean, and then not have to spend the kind of money to make it permanent.
But we may be able to.
That way we have solved the problem here, and it's temporary.
Well, and in addition, if I may, we were looking at programming in some renovations in the old wing there where the clinic exists now. I mean, as far as the capital improvement plan, we were looking at perhaps the follow-on to the gym renovations is renovating.
Back over once the gym work is and the wall completed.
Well, first,
back, and it'd just be everything be temporary.
Commissioner
I'll
Payne,
second the motion.
Well, Commissioner Lopez said the motion first.
There's already a motion out there.
That he motioned to approve, and then Commissioner Payne started to say his motion.
I would amend that motion if possible.
So we got a motion to approve. We need a second for that to continue. Motion to approve from Commissioner Lopez.
I'll second that.
Second from.
Then I'll make my motion to amend it.
Okay, then we can ask to amend that when we
can amend it.
Can we have discussion?
Yeah, now we'll have discussion.
We'll
Yes, we'll have discussion on the amendment on the floor. I mean the motion on the floor.
Okay.
You want to be first?
Mayor.
Commissioner Lopez.
Mr. Mayor, this has to be voted on tonight. And the RFP goes out at the end of the month on the 27th. And as Ms. Allen rightfully said, I was in her first class, and I'm proud to have been and believe to this day that I got the best of that relationship. Ms. Allen is the only one who has spoken here tonight that taught at Douglas School when it was still segregated. No one else you've heard from can say that. No one other than members of the Frederick Douglass Group has made this an either-or issue. I've long been a health advocate long before I ever worked at the health department, and no one there even was in this consideration of this. Mr. Mayor, I haven't forgotten where I come from. In fact, I never left. I'm so disheartened and pained that such an important proposal that benefits our community and immediate neighborhood of Bahama Village has garnered this level of obstruction and division. In my mind, and indeed the minds of many, there is no doubt that there should be some sustaining memento of the history that is the area of our city now known as Bahama Village. There are a number of facts that are being overlooked and actually misguided, and that have been misrepresented in order to obtain for one group who has done some good things in our community. I know because I supported them and helped them obtain validation with our city's leadership. The fact is that we are here because we need to finally get going on much-needed repairs to the Douglass Gym. In order to necessitate those repairs, the Roosevelt Sands Community Health Resource Center, we realized mid-last year, would have to be relocated. We looked at portables. We looked at the absorption of the clinic into the Gato location. We looked at the possibility of moving portables from NAS Boca Chica to an area near the Eco Discovery Center, all of which turned out to be much more expensive in resources, time, and money. All of the avenues we researched came up with the cost of any temporary location costing more over a 2-year period than a permanent location to the band room, a space that we already own. Which made the most sense? Very little to argue about there. The band room was our last hope. We looked into it and realized that it would cost less than half the resources, time, and money to fix it and fit it to the needs of the clinic, our tenant. It represented itself basically the same size, gaining a few extra square feet, which would only allow them to better serve the community in a better way than they do now. A big part of their current services is the Wic Program, which is currently run out of a former serving area, carried over from when the location belonged to the county and was a second senior nutrition center. The point should be made right about here that providing the location is the city's primary and most mostly the only contribution that the city actually makes to the clinic's existence there. Now we could run this, and we can run this entirely on the emotions evoked by the group that you've heard from, who have misrepresented my support and misrepresented the truth as it relates to the proposal. But saying that we're losing something more than we've already lost. I've supported this group, and although they make it a point to call me a liar and debase my name and who I am, indeed they have even backtracked on earlier statements made by their leadership that they don't care where the clinic goes. Here's my thought. While you're talking about my grandfather, and I want to be clear that this is not about him, only a clinic that bears his name. I think that it's sad, and I'm appalled that you would stoop so low as to use his name in such a manner as to mislead the public. He never has. We have met and have presented all manner of compromise and alternatives. Yet when they appeared before us last, they claimed that there was never such a meeting. The fact is that one meeting that they have neglected to ask for, that they should have asked for, was the meeting with the commissioner from that district. Instead, they went all around that and have sought meetings with staff, the mayor, even at least one other commissioner from a different district. Every meeting that has been held with them has been called for by me or recommended by staff. After they met with the mayor and at least one other commissioner, when they should have sought to meet with me. The fact is that in the last 2 decades, the clinic, yes, it's named after my grandfather, is the only thing that has come into the neighborhood. It came at a time when everything else had been or was being moved out. You don't notice the children in the community having a school they can walk to anymore. They have to be bused out to the farthest school away from their neighborhood. In fact, off of the island. Where was your outrage then? The issue came up again recently. Where was the outrage then? Is this what the community wants for the clinic as well? Because I remember walking to the clinic with my mother, and I know several others have done the same. And I see it often even now. People walk to the clinic with their kids, and that's going to go away if this does not pass. In the process of this, we are repairing and restoring not one but 2 historically significant buildings in the immediate neighborhood that still holds the Douglas School name. When the band room building was a drug haven, where was the indignation? Where was the outrage? Where was the help to bring it back to life? I was there, literally ankle deep in it, shoveling and bagging the debris along with several Lutheran youth ministry kids who came down for their spring and summer breaks and helped. Several of our local kids joined in as well. Emory Major was commissioner then and got the city to partner with us to get the place cleaned out and secured. We asked him to put it on his agenda as commissioner to restore, which he did, but he didn't get to finish that. Later on, Commissioner Carmen Turner was the commissioner, and again, she got the city to help us clean out the building. Then she got it restored the first time. It was reopened and functioning as the home for the Bahama Village Music Program, the Bessie Community Gospel Choir, and an extension of the tutoring program, and the Just for Kids art program, which was in a separate space immediately next door. In 2005, we were hit with Hurricane Wilma. The band room took on water, big time. Some instruments were lost. Some mold issues presented themselves. We had our community service folks go in and mitigate the mold issues. However, in 2009, we noticed that the mold had come back only much more aggressively. I asked that the place be closed down and that we move the programs operating therein to be moved to the current location, which is where a child care center that Wesley House had shut down and that the city was nearly complete and cleaning up. The band room then lay dormant. I had put away some $50,000 amounts in 2 years' budgets, which did not do a third year because of fear of tax increases that year. That money was to go for the repair of the band room. It had been spent on engineering study, pre-construction costs, etc. But until recently, there was no hard plan for the building. It seems as I read just today, that the Frederick Douglass School Black Educators Memorial Project have again retooled their statement to be more accurate. I did promise to work with them. I kept that promise. I did say that I thought that they, along with some other nonprofit groups, might be a good fit for the building before all of these issues came up. That was absolutely true. But I made no promise that they or anyone in particular would have and hold that building. I suppose it's important to note that even if I had, I would have to, out of necessity, have rethought such an absurd promise. How could I promise a building that I didn't know at the time I could even save at that time? Any of you who know me know that that's not the way I operate. This is a move that is necessary to repair not one but two buildings while allowing a very important community asset, regardless who it's named after. I still seethe when they or anyone tries to reduce my motivation to something so petty. This is not about the community. These folks have been met with, they have been made all kinds of offers to cooperate, coexist, and serve the community they claim to love. The fact is they love it so much they don't live there. The group that opposes this plan has been asked to bring forth a plan. No plan. They have been asked to describe their space needs. No response. Instead, they have repeatedly gone out of their way to circumvent and obstruct. When Commissioner Turner, along with then Mayor Weakley and members of the commission at that time, got that band room rebuilt back then, where was the love? I was there at the grand opening of the Ellen Sanchez room in that building. I didn't see any of their faces. As for Ms. Sanchez, how many of the members of this organization love her so much that they know that she doesn't even have a grave marker? I have worked with the cemetery staff and the Historic Florida Keys Foundation to ensure that she will get a grave marker due sometime near the end of this year or the beginning of next. Mr. Mayor, I could go on and on, but this is hogwash and an attempt to bamboozle this commission and this community simply because they want what they want and nothing else. I am sorry, but if we enter into an agreement with them, there's no telling what kind of fruit that relationship will bear. But I am afraid that it will not serve the community as well as a clinic that addresses the needs of our children will. No one more than me, as I believe I have demonstrated, wants to reveal, present, preserve, and honor our history.
Shh. Please be quiet out there.
However, at the risk of ongoing asset that takes care of our children, allowing better access to quality health care. I am proud to say that this year, thanks to our state representative and others, our request for several historic sites, including the American Legion building, was granted. However, children's health has been severely cut from the governor's budget this year. This is making the clinic in our community that much more of a valuable entity. Mr. Mayor and colleagues, I've held three of my grandchildren as they got their first shots in that clinic. The youngest one only 2 weeks ago. Many parents find it easy to access in its current neighborhood. Mr. Mayor, with that, the motion's already been made.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, having now had the opportunity to read the ordinance cited by Commissioner Kaufman a while ago, it's inapplicable to the current resolution before the commission.
All right. Thank you.
Can I ask why?
Because you're not approving a lease agreement this evening, you're approving negotiations. Even if you were approving a lease this evening, there's a waiver provision if the city commission finds that the use of the property is in the best interest of the city, and there's a recommendation from the city manager.
Okay. So
all right, thank you.
That would need to be, just a clarification, that would need to be part of the next resolution if there is a lease agreement.
If there's a lease agreement coming forward.
And that would require a supermajority.
If it's below market rate, it requires a supermajority.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I think there was going to be an amendment.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
We're still discussing this one, and then any other discussion?
I'd like to ask if the Frederick Douglass educators could respond to the question of the fact that I heard that there was no plan and no...
Well, you know what? They've had their comments. It's going to be he says, he said.
I would like to ask the question. Am I allowed to ask the question?
But the rest of us are commenting now.
What's that?
We're having a comment. We get to comment now on this discussion. Okay. And if you want to ask a question when you get a chance, okay. You spoke to it already. I just want to say it's a shame that it's got to this point. Two great groups of people. I hate seeing you families fight like you're doing. I think what we have to make a decision up here is with all these accusations. I don't want to be in a position to call anybody not telling the truth, so I don't want to go there. What I want to do is I want to make a decision what I feel is best for the community. Protect the families, the children, with a health department facility in Bahama Village, so it won't be moved to Stock Island, because we know it will probably be moved to Stock Island. And some people say no, it won't. Well, as Mr. Scholl said many times, hope is not a strategy. We want to make sure that that facility stays in Bahama Village where it's needed, and we will work with this group to have a location for your museum, but it just won't be in that building at this time. A museum for the black educators, and there's nobody that wants to support our history more than I do. You constantly see that. It's very important to me. But if there's got to be a compromise here for the health of our citizens and our children in that community. So I support it staying where it's at, and I think, and I wish that you would all, when this vote is over, shake hands, be friends, because we all live here together. Next.
Well, I attempted to make the motion for a amendment to the resolution to require that the movement discussed in there from the health department would be only temporary until such time as the gym could be repaired, and then they could move back into that gym, and then the band room would be once again available. And so that would be my motion.
Well, the motion's already on the floor, so if the two that made the motion and seconded want to accept that amendment, that would be up to them. Right. That would be. So but I think what they had said before, it was too costly, and they felt that the health department would not do that on a temporary basis, because the assistant city manager said we're going to give them a white box and they're going to do all the work on the inside.
If they say that it was too expensive and can't be done, then I'll withdraw my motion. That's what the word is. Then
that's what you said there, Greg Velez. Would you say that on the microphone, please? Because that's what you did, just to be clear on that.
I said that it would be very difficult for them to go in any type of temporary situation, any group to go in there and do a build out from what we're giving them to start with to be operable on a temporary basis. That would be a very difficult task for someone to do.
Okay.
That's what.
Is that a fair enough answer for you, Mr. Well,
I assume that that's what they would. It would be costly. I'm not sure all the renovations they would have to do to be able to move in on a bare basis, that they just go in there for a period of time knowing they're going to be moving out of there. You know?
Well, if we could negotiate that after the fact, then
you think
so
would it be wise for us to delay for a week so we can the next meeting and come back and see whether it could be temporary?
I think this is a time-sensitive decision. It's going out to bid and it has to be done now.
Can I ask a question about that? How is it time sensitive if the construction doesn't start till July?
The bid's going out. Go ahead.
Well, I know, but that doesn't affect where they're moving. I mean,
the health department will need to get their plans going for that internal renovation then too, knowing that they'll have the space. That's the point, I think, is that we'll negotiate.
And Commissioner Lopez
can... And as I understand that, even where we are now, we're looking at a possible month-long overlap of when they should already be out, and in fact they'll still be there while the work is beginning.
Is anyone here from the health department that can actually answer these questions?
No. I think I just did, and I am from the health department too, sir.
I didn't know you spoke for the health department.
I'm speaking from what our engineer told us this morning.
Sir, are you speaking for the health department?
We're not in court, Mr.
I'm asking. You said you. I mean,
all right, come on.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Is there someone here that could speak from the health department? It's a simple question.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to call somebody up again because last time that person got attacked.
I withdraw the motion.
Okay. All right. It's a simple question.
But the last time that person got attacked, I don't want to do it again.
I'm sorry. I'm feeling shut down by other people on this dais.
No, I'm going to let you ask.
And so am I.
Please.
I'm not trying to
show some respect for one another here in class, please. All right, you want to ask your questions? Mr. Kaufman, now is your opportunity to ask, because everybody else had an opportunity to speak also. All right, now it's your opportunity to speak, and you can ask your questions that you want to ask.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Your name, ma'am?
Mary Turner.
Okay, and so you heard the question about what was stated, that there's no way the health department could make a temporary move to the band room. You agree with that?
I do. In the meetings that we've had with the city, that was one of the options that were posed. And we were told that if we did move, then we would have to pay to move again. And then retrofit whatever space that we're being given.
So did the health department consider the cost of a temporary move?
That was in with the modular units that Commissioner Lopez mentioned. And I think that those quotes were somewhere, close to $100,000.
For a temporary move?
That's correct.
Okay, and so your primary consideration for rejecting the possibility of a temporary move was the cost?
We did not reject that.
You did not reject that?
No. I think, again, we're tenants. And so I think the city said that they didn't want to pay for it. Am I speaking correctly?
Well,
We went forward. This isn't an overnight thing. We've been working on this with them for. Jim Scholl and I drove up to Boca Chica. We went through a four-way trailer that's been abandoned up there that was offered to us. We got an incredible price to move it. It was expensive, super expensive, and would have taken as much retrofit or more retrofit or a refit as this place is going to take. So we decided that was a bad move. We've looked at renting. We even looked at putting it over in Truman Annex so we could house it there and close it to the neighborhood, and running the utilities and everything into that location was very expensive. That's why we've shied away from that, and that's why they never turned it down.
We've never turned down any offers we were given.
Mr. Mayor, it's 10:57. You have a meeting procedures resolution that would take a motion to extend any new item past 11 o'clock.
We need to vote on this.
Correct.
Can we call the roll?
Right. I'm just.
Any more discussion? We need to vote on this and call the roll.
I'd like to ask.
Okay, go ahead.
Mayor,
ask another question.
Ask more questions. I wanted to ask the Frederick Douglass Educators Group as to whether or not they had presented a plan to the city.
Okay, you can ask them.
Okay, thank you.
You're right.
Can I ask someone from the Frederick Douglass Educators Group to speak as to whether or not Commissioner Lopez said there was never any plan presented to the city regarding...
Come up to the microphone, please, to answer.
Regarding what the museum would be or could be. Was there... Commissioner Lopez said that there was no plan presented to the city from the Black Educators Group. Is that true?
Towards what? I'm not sure.
Towards what the museum would do, what your program is or would be.
Well, we do have a plan that we can present. It's a document that we've submitted earlier with the floor plan and what our ideas would be to it, and we were actually waiting for the city to come back and let us know were we going to be sharing the building or would we be going going somewhere else. So the plan was contingent upon where would we be going.
Okay. So that plan was presented.
The plan, yes, has been presented. Yes.
And did anyone at any time let you know that there was discussion in the city that the health department might consider a temporary relocation to the band room?
We asked early in the meetings that we've had in the very beginning, could they just go there temporarily? The answer came back from Mr. Cohen, no.
Did they give
because it was not cost efficient. That was their reason.
Did the black educators ever, before this meeting, hear that there was discussion about a potential temporary move by the health department?
The temporary from where they are to the band room, is that what you were
right, to make that move temporary. Is this the first time you're hearing that? Or did you?
No, we've actually brought it up, and it came back that no, that's not going to happen. If they move in there, they're staying. That's what was told.
Okay. Well, this is the first time I'm hearing it, so I'm wondering when does the city commission hear that there was discussion about a temporary move? Possibility. This is the first time I'm hearing it. I'm wondering whether the black educators had discussions with the health department about this.
No, we actually went to the health department. We met with Mr. Eady, and it was just for a discussion. It was not to negotiate anything, so nothing came out of it. This is really the first opportunity we have had to share anything since the January 20th meeting, because we've also only had one meeting with city staff prior to now.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay. That is.
I know this is a long meeting, and I want to thank Mary Turner for her comments. But the commissioner has been very gracious in his conversation. You just heard that there has not been another opportunity to meet with the group. I will tell you that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Turner, but yourself, Greg Velez, myself, and Commissioner Lopez tried to attend a meeting with this gentleman and Mr. Eady. We were asked to leave. So we're standing in the lobby of the Gatto building going, what's up with that? I thought we were supposed to be talking about how to resolve this issue. So for the gentleman to stand here and say that there has not been another opportunity to have this conversation is very disappointing, but not surprising. As far as the conversations about relocation, the assistant city manager told you about, we looked at a single wide. Yes, we did, a double wide, Boca Chica. All that was talked about at a meeting that we had in describing the efforts that we have gone through in order to see what it makes sense to do a double move for the health department. The CRA is not prepared, at least it wouldn't be my recommendation, for the CRA to bear that cost of a double move. The health department, I don't believe, can get funds from the legislature for a double move. It may be hard enough for them to get dollars for a single move, let alone a double move. And I don't believe the city is prepared to pay for a double move. So, Commissioner, when we've had conversations with you about being a part of this, yes, today we got a document from this group that says on a piece of paper that one, maintenance cost would be $150 per month. I think their electric bill will be more than $150 per month. At the bottom of the document, it says that they would like the city to pay for the build out of the space, and that through grants and other funds that they would pay for their staff. Oh, I'm sorry, volunteers and staff, they'll get through grants. Well, for me, that's not an organization that's on par with the health department. So, okay, this is the document.
But wait a second, Mr. Cohen, we have
asked the question, which is,
he's answering the question.
We receive a document, and the answer is yes. Today, this is the document that we received that says funding requirements, cost of construction, facility operation and maintenance, to the request funds from the City of Key West to defray cost. TIF, grants being submitted, funding of staff volunteers. So this is the document that we received that asks the following questions. Can you tell us what your program is? Can you tell us what your construction costs would be? Can you tell us what your staffing requirements are, your hours of operation, your source of funds to be able to maintain the structure? Do you have any funds in hand or fundraising activities to construct a new building? This is the document that we received today in response for that. I would suggest to you that this document is not adequate.
And Mr. Cohen, if I can ask questions back. All the other nonprofits that have space from the city, all of them. Let me finish my question, please. The music room, Just for Kids, the Old Firehouse, the Boys and Girls Club, the Bahama Village Music Program, the Wild Bird Center. Did you ask for that from them before they got space?
I was not here.
Well, I want to know. So wait, what I want to know is why is this group getting this type of scrutiny?
Well, we're not here to badger the employees, all right?
I'm not. I'm asking.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
The question, I guess the
all
question.
right? You can ask the question and let the gentleman answer, and don't argue while he's answering.
I want to know if we ask for those.
Let him answer. Okay. He's trying to answer you.
And my response is, I was not here when those various organizations came forward and asked for dollars. You have asked us to ask for information. We have this. You asked us whether or not they have been informed of previous efforts to find relocation. We've answered that question that yes, they have been. We responded because we did not want to go unheard about the fact that there had been previous opportunities to work this out. We were asked not to attend a meeting. So that's for the record because, as I said, the commissioner has been gracious in his comments, but I think there's some things that should be cleared for the record because it does reflect, it seems to me, on some staff when it said there has not been an opportunity when we did show up for a meeting.
Well,
I would like to just say one thing to that meeting. That is not what the city instructed us. I have a recording right here that says that Dr. Irving said that she would meet with the health department, even though they said they weren't interested. That the city was their landlord, and that they were a tenant.
All right. Okay.
And at that meeting, we arranged that meeting. We scheduled that meeting. Yes. And no, we did not invite the city to that meeting, but they showed up anyway and was politely asked to leave.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that answer. You have another question?
I'd like to ask City Manager a question. So, for example, Jim, Just for Kids, they occupy space in the city, right? I have the list from Maryland. We have at least a dozen nonprofits that that have rent-free space with the city.
Yes.
My question is, do they have to present a business plan before they get the space? And do they have to provide the same documents that were requested of this group?
If it's a turnkey space and it gets approved, if we have a submission that we could take to the commission, then no. If we have spaces that require renovation and capital improvements, it goes through a capital improvement process, and it may or may not be a sub market rate rent. It's likely to be, but it depends on whether or not there's capital improvements investments, who does those investments, and whether or not there's rent credits along those lines, depending on the space.
Mr. Mayor, can we call the question? Are you finished asking your questions?
Yes, sir.
All right, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Kaufman.
No.
Commissioner Lopez.
I think Mrs. Romero had a question. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Payne.
Yes.
Commissioner Romero.
The only reason I'm going to say yes is because this is strictly to negotiate, but I definitely will have comments at commissioner comments.
Commissioner Wardlow.
Yes.
Commissioner Weekly.
Yes.
Mayor Cates.
Yes. Motion passes. Mr. Mayor. All right. Now the time has expired. We have to have a motion whether to continue till 12 o'clock.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we continue our meeting until beyond the 11 o'clock till 12.